Welcome back. It's a brand new season of CGL.
This is just an absolute treat. These players are so damn good.
The talent on these teams is undeniable. Everybody on every team right now is making plays.
It's going to be an exciting start to the season, and it'll just get better from here on out.
We're about to step to a whole new era of Overwatch esports. So much exciting action is happening here on CGL that you do not want to miss.
Look who's starting it all off. It's Raven. No one necessarily figure out what is the right way to go just yet.
What a nice roll through from me. It's just gonna solidify everything for Mythos.
Does come back, and Arize gets the mech, but I don't need a mech. I'll kill 4 anyway.
This is just a highlight reel for Arize right now.
They're making a statement in the EU Masters here.
This patch is still incredibly fresh. There's so much to learn, so much to change about the way we play the game.
NKC, but the shatter is colossal.
Let's get it going.
Trades keep coming through. Lores, you're gonna be able to find these shots true.
Idu on the overclock with 2.
Here comes an Ambulance immediately to back like fine skills, slicing and dicing their way through 2-3. So back and forth.
All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to CGL, where we look to crown a mid-season champion here tonight in the NAPC Open tier. It is Nightmare Rotation taking on Arize. I am Dextron. That is 2Tryhard Ray. Ray, man, how are you doing here tonight?
Very excited. One of our most competitive, tight-knit divisions we have in CGL NAPC Open tier. The mid-season halfway point comes to a conclusion for the division tonight. We got 2 amazing teams for you. Nightmare Rotation, Arize, 2 very well-known teams, especially in the OWCS scene, with Nightmare Rotation being one of, the family of the Nightmare teams that they have. And then Arize being around in CGL, a lot of them come from the Crazy 88s branch. So it's 2 teams very familiar to a lot of you guys out there watching.
Yeah, and I mean, both these teams do come into it with 1 loss in the regular season. Arize's 1 loss actually comes against Nightmare Rotation, but they never actually played that one. It was a forfeit. Nightmare Rotation, on the other hand, did lose to BSC Bobcats in the final week before the midseason tournament. But ever since then, neither of these teams have dropped a map. So both these teams riding what might be the hottest streak at the moment.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and take a look at that bracket and see how these teams have gotten to this point. As we see for the Bobcats, Arize ended up 3-0ing them, so Nightmare didn't even have to go back and go against them once again, as these 2 teams will meet in the grand finals. As we mentioned, as you can see, none of them have dropped a single map in these mid-season playoffs, so that's definitely going to change for one of these teams tonight, and I'm very excited to see with the momentum both of these teams are riding on, how this is going to collide and who's going to have the upper hand.
Yeah, absolutely. I think honestly, both these teams are going to probably be dealt their first map loss of the midseason playoffs tonight. And I mean, honestly, of the entire season, outside these teams' 1 loss, they have not dropped a map other than the loss, like I said. So I feel like we have a very, very close-knit series on our hands. Talent across the board, like you said. These 2 teams just full of it. I think it's going to be a very, very exciting series.
And I couldn't agree with you more, as now we are going to get you guys a highlight of the rosters. As you can see, Nightmare Rotations on the screen. Fish Tank and Harmony with the DPS line, Dirt, Chosen, and Bandit, rounding out the tank and supports. These names, I mean, if you watch OWCS and have seen Nightmare Rotation, especially in the Swiss stage, they are a known commodity, very talented players across the board.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, very talented players across the board. They are just an incredibly fun team to watch, especially with what they talked about we could be seeing throughout the night here tonight. It's going to be one you're going to want to keep your eyes out on. But for the other side and Arize, these are the players that are definitely more akin or more known if you've been following CGL here for a while. Amadian and Zach on that DPS line. Melophobia on the tank to start out. They're going to be playing tank for map 1 and then swapping off. Bolting, Cake, and Rhine Guy on the support line. And Ray, I mean, if there was a CGL Hall of Fame, probably the majority of this Arize roster would already be in it.
couldn't agree with you more. Ryan Guy is the one that stands out. He's been around CGL for such a long time, but all of them have. And as we mentioned, that's going to be the weird thing about Arize. Melophobia, I think they're waiting on their tank player to get here, so they're going to hop over to the tank map #1. So how is that going to change things for Arize? Melophobia, we all know, very, very talented tracer player. How is that going to translate to tank? What tanks do they like to play? Does that change? You know, maybe they would be more of a brawl team with their main tank in, but maybe they got to go more poke or more dive composition. It could just change a lot of things depending on what Melophobia's tank hero pool is.
Yeah, and I think it makes it very interesting, at least for this first map, because both these teams seem to really ride on momentum. And if Nightmare wins the first map, even with Melophobia swapping back over to DPS and having their normal tank come in after map 1, it might be something where it takes them a map to really get caught back up to speed. But at that point, you might already be down 2 maps and staring down the barrel here of what might be a sweep in the grand finals. But I feel like Melophobia is a competent enough player on every role that they can at least keep their own in our first map of the night here, which, speaking of, will be, I believe, Nepal here. So it does allow some options for tank play, but for the most part, I still feel like we're going to see a lot of Orisa and maybe the occasional poke tank, maybe like a Sigma here.
I think on the map like Sanctum, there's always the possibility for getting like a Sigma, but I think the rest of the maps you're either going to get Orisa or Ramatra. Those are the 2 main brawl it out tanks that we've seen in the meta so far. So I think those are what's going to be on the plate. The question for me is there's been a lot of interesting DPS combinations. I've seen people who play Ashe. I've seen Cassidy come into the fray. I've seen Tracer. I've seen some Sombra. So I think it's going to be interesting. Even with these brawl comps, May is another big one. So what DPS combinations do these teams look to play? And I think the counteract and like interaction between those DPS going at it with each other could make the big difference.
Yeah, and you bring up what might be the most interesting fact right now about about the meta just in general, because in the past it's always kind of been you have these 3 DPS that you kind of have to play no matter what it is. But right now the meta is so kind of wide open, especially with DPS, that you can see a majority of that DPS kind of field come out. And I think it's always interesting to see what each team tries to run with here. I mean, the Sim going to come out here. I believe this is probably a Nightmare rotation. If it's going to be anything, might just be a TP to point or TP and then swap off. But I mean, they did have it as their hero on the team page.
As we will now look to leave spawn, and they are gonna run out. See, this is the thing, guys. We do get, you know, information for these teams, and they did mention this composition, but we almost thought they were trolling us. But it looks like they are gonna roll out on it.
Yeah, I mean, it's always very interesting to see when we see this type of stuff in the answers, because like you said, we think it's a troll, we think it's a joke, but there are just some teams that find a lot of value with it, and it might just be kind of a catch them by surprise here. And if Dirk can land a couple hooks, pull in a couple of the supports, even shut down Zach from flying around, it might be something that opens up the fight a lot here for Nightmare rotations. But that level 3 beam just does so much. Fish Tank, they're going to be able to clean up Bolt and Cake. Ryan Guy also taken out here, so Nightmare rotation does have the advantage at the moment, taking care of both of Arize's supports. Melophobia, though, gonna stay alive here and just try to fall back.
It almost feels like Arize was, you know, caught off guard with this composition, not expecting. I mean, I don't think anyone should be expecting a composition like this. They are making some swaps. Going over to the Pharah is going to be very smart. There's no hit scan available for Nightmare rotation whatsoever.
Yeah, you would have to be really focusing on Chosen or Bandit to be focusing up at the sky here. So you're putting a lot more pressure on the Dirt, who you see right there immediately gets bionated and taken off of the playing field. This is going to definitely result in a point swap here for Arize. So some smart swaps early here for them.
I think that's going to be the key for both of these teams, is matching each other's swaps and making appropriate ones to keep yourself alive in the series. The question is, does Nightmare rotation look to make any kind of swaps? It looks like they just feel confident and hard stuck on this, but they got the orbital raise in this fight for both teams, so this is going to be an interesting one.
Yeah, the biggest problem though for Nightmare rotations, they don't have that photon barrier up, because that could be something that could immediately negate that orbital ray on the other side, which you do see come out there from Ryan Guy. Bolton Cake also throws the nano at the barrage though from Zach. Will find one. Bandit gonna be able to clean up, or Ryan Guy gonna be able to clean up Bandit right there with some help from that barrage and Arize. Another quick team fight win there. But I mean, Nightmare rotation only used one ult in that fight.
Yeah, it was a 3-for-1, so all things considered, if you're Nightmare rotation, yes, do Arize take the percentage lead on this point? They do, but you're going to have so much more to be able to commit to this fight. The issue is a lot of these ults you're going to have for Nightmare rotation, they aren't as high value as some of the ones Arize has in their back pocket, so you have to be very careful and very smart about how you use them.
Hey, that's an early pick right there for Dirt, but Melophobia are going to come right back in. This was the biggest question we had for Arize coming in this map, is how would Melophobia fare on the tank? And so far, they are faring just fine here. I mean, it doesn't hurt that they're playing Orisa, who is incredibly strong at the moment, but the whole hog comes out. They're going to be able to send Melophobia off the point. Nightmare going to be able to retake it.
And again, only 2 ults committed to that fight, and I think there was another. I mean, it was 2-for-1 basically. If your rotation with the ult advantage you have, you'll take that. So now you can continue to defend very hard here with your photon barrier, and then you can look to find some kills with this tire. So I think Nightmare rotation's in a pretty good spot here. But if Arize is smart, you just look to get as many ults from Nightmare out as possible and just conserve yours for the next fight.
Bandit got taken low there for a moment, but now the Rip Tire coming out here from Fish Tank. Gonna try to play it slow, let it open up a little bit, but hey, they played a little bit too slow there, losing Harmony, losing Dirt. Yeah, you find a Madian, but I mean, it comes at a great cost. You're already down your tank. The photon barrier no longer there. Bob out on the field as well. Nightmare rotation is gonna have to give up this point, but Bandit trying to do their damnedest to do just that, but eventually they will fall.
And unfortunately, no photon barrier to try and save the team there. Might have been helpful, especially with Melophobia getting early picks like that. And now all the momentum shifts back to Arize's favor, because not only is this final fight territory, but Arize is coming up on like 4 different ultimates. So this is looking rough for Nightmare rotation.
Yeah, and those 4 ultimates are all deadly in their own right. The photon barrier coming out of here from Harmony and Nightmare rotation, they have to play on this now. Nice hook there by Dirt, but they need to get rid of Melophobia. They're going to be easily able to fall back. The point will flip, though, so Arize is going to play it slow here for the moment. I think that's a very smart play by them.
Gonna agree with you more. Zach finds Chosen, and that is, I mean, might just wrap things up for Arize, especially with a barrage in the back pocket.
And you also see that orbital ray come out there from Ryan Guy. Dirt going to be able to keep themselves up here. Bandit also now investing the orbital ray of their own. Zach, though, going to be able to find 2, but no one from Nightmare rotation is able to get back in time. And Arize will take our first point on Nepal.
Again, this composition from Nightmare rotation, not very conventional. So for this Arize, especially when you're playing an Orisa, it's a lot easier to take advantage of this. You know, Junkrat does a lot of damage, but is very squishy, and you know, you could definitely avoid a lot of that damage pretty easily. Sim relies on being extremely close, and you don't really have much engagement for getting close outside of the speed boost Bandit has. And then Zach on this Pharah is just a nightmare for these supports to deal with. I mean, yes, do they have the ability to aim and shoot at the Pharah? They do, but it's still very tough.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're Nightmare, you really have to expect that you're going to be seeing the exact same thing here. No swaps coming out for them means they have a lot of confidence, and I mean, when you get plays like that, yeah, you have all the confidence in the world, because look at what that does to Arize backwards immediately. Oh.
Nice sleep. And I mean, it's the smart thing to do if you are Arize, is to just back up and reset, because this point is just barely going to get capped, and you should be able to take a fight pretty quickly. And because you're playing more of this hog composition, you can't afford to just hold up at the door like that. You got to have space to poke and look for picks.
And look at how aggressively Melophobia is playing here. Use a spear spin to get in, try to javelin Dirt off the map. Not going to be able to do just that, but they have completely taken this high ground right here, and now they're starting to take the point of Madian, though, on that off angle. Going to be able to find Fish Tank as Melophobia, again, just kind of pressuring that back line, or the entirety of Nightmare rotation here. The point will flip. Zach will get Harmony. Dirt also falling there. Arize with a quick fallback, it immediately leads to a quick team fight win.
Again, for the side of Arize, this Orisa composition is much more the standard from what we see on a map like this. And when you're playing Roadhog with no protection whatsoever, these javelins from Melophobia are extremely lethal, and then your Fortify can just nullify any hooks that you go after. So this Orisa is just a great counter to the Hog.
And the orbital ray coming out here from Bandit, but honestly, you just lost probably the main person you wanted to use there, a Fish Tank. Bandit taken out as well. The nano thrown back onto Zach. Those rockets are gonna be dealing a lot of damage. The hook there only gonna slow down Melophobia for a moment, but Arize again forcing Nightmare Rotation to rotate back out.
And all at the cost for one ult. And I mean, I think you'll take the nano for orbital ray any day. That is such a big ultimate, and they didn't get any value out of it. So now Arize can look to use this aggressively on their own and look to wipe Nightmare Rotation quickly.
And again, they're going to be able to find Melophobia with the whole Hog there, but look at Arize here. The rest of them so far away from it, it's not going to really find a lot of value. Bandit will find Zach. Captain coming out, but it doesn't look like it's struck on anyone. However, Nightmare Rotation going to be able to win this fight out here and retake the point.
Again, and that was a 2-for-1 trade for rotation, so it's nice. And you're in a situation where you flip the point, but Arize can re-engage with their orbital ray. They have their barrage. You gotta hope Harmony has a really good photon barrier to limit not only this barrage, but as much of the value as the orbital ray as possible.
And the orbital ray out on the field right now. They're not investing the photon barrier out, but you already lose Chosen, and that's one person you do not want to lose early on. There's the photon barrier. They're going to be able to find Melophobia, and now Arize just going to have to kind of wait for it because they don't really want to get on the other side of it here. Dirt and Harmony doing a good job just kind of controlling the field at the moment.
I mean, it's very well played, and now you're in a position where for Nightmare Rotation, if you can win a nice long fight, that pick on a Manian is exactly what you're looking for. You basically bring this into final fight territory, and you have your orbital ray and a tire to work with. This is a really good position.
Yeah, and I mean, I think Nightmare Rotation finally has what they're kind of looking for with this comp. They're kind of controlling one side of the map, forcing Arize to rotate through the other one, and it's working out perfectly for them here. I mean, you just see all the utility that Arize is having to use early on here. Tire coming out here from Fish Tank. Did find one last time, but again, they're playing it very slow. I mean, they're maneuvering this tire perfectly here, and hey, that's the one target you're looking for if you wanted to get anyone out early. Nano thrown back out on the Zach. They do have that barrage ready to go, but someone needs to touch point. Zach will get the touch there. Amadian finding one. Zach, though, very low. The barrage going to be canceled out there by Dirt and Nightmare Rotation, setting us to a winner-take-all point.
Being able to take a map off a team like Arize with a very unorthodox composition like this is very impressive. I will say, the one map where this Roadhog could work very well is going to be Sanctum, just because of all the edges you can work with. The hooks just are so threatening, so it forces Arize to play in certain positions. Now that we come to a map that's extremely brawly in close quarters like this, the advantage does go to the Brawl team playing the Orisa composition. And then there's also a lot of open skies for Zach to be able to work with on this Pharah.
Yeah, and I mean, especially with this point being so close quarters as well, Pharah does find a lot of value just with the splash damage that she's able to just kind of throw in very easily. But I mean, this first fight is going to be really important here for Nightmare, and you immediately see that they notice Melophobia there. They back up immediately, but Bandit not able to back out fast enough.
And that's the issue with this Pharah, when you don't really have any hit scan availability. I think that's the one issue. If you had one of these two DPS, you know, maybe on like an Ashe, or even a Cassidy at this point, the lives of the supports, because at least Harmony and at least Chosen and Bandit have opportunities to shoot at the Pharah, but they can't do it themselves.
Yeah, and you can see right now how much Nightmare Rotation is really focusing on Harmony's TPs, just to try to get around the map right now. They're using it to at least get Dirt to point, but now Bandit's kind of sectioned off from the rest of their team. Zach focusing back on Dirt here, but I mean, through all that right there, Nightmare actually going to be able to flip the point and only letting Arize get 12%, but I mean, Arize has all the positioning in the world here. They're quickly going to take the point back, especially already finding Fish Tank.
And again, getting a late pick onto Chosen. Yeah, this is kind of the idea with this Roadhog. There's just not a lot of ways and areas for you to poke and find easy hooks like you could on that last map of Chasm. So I mean, Sanctum. And again, just look at Zach, just has full control of these skies and has plenty of cover, be able to use the roofs of these houses.
But Nightmare Rotation making their first swap of the entire series so far, and it's Dirt going over to the Malgo, which I think it's going to be a little bit better than the Roadhog here, at least just being able to pressure out Melophobia a little bit, but Melophobia is waiting for that opportunity to use the Terror Surge here. They have it ready to go. A huge anti-nade thrown back onto Zach, and another nano thrown on to them as well. Zach went too early on in this fight, and I mean, Nightmare Rotation already backing out, but I mean, they find a Madian.
You do get a Madian off the field, so that's at least an opening to where they have to play a little bit further back, can't be as aggressive. But the swap over the Malga, I don't think it's going to help that much more. I mean, it's going to give you a lot more sustain in the fights, and you have more damage to throw down, but I still think Arize is going to be a great counter to this.
Oh, and talk about a combo and a half coming out from Arize. Two great ultimates. Actually, the Barrage was also invested in that one as well, but they clean up pretty quickly. Nightmare Rotation is going to have to run back to this point incredibly fast, and Arize looking like they're going to try to deny that.
Yeah, I don't even know if they're going to be able to touch. In comes the Tire trying to find a pick. Does it find any? It does. Two!
And now you do see the touch come out here from Nightmare Rotation, and honestly, they should be able to get the point swap off this. If they find Zach, it's also a little bit of a cherry on top, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, amazing comeback from Nightmare Rotation. They're going to have this Photon Barrier to use defensively on the next fight, and Arize pretty much emptied out their ult bank. Melophobia is now going to go over to the Diva as they feel Dirt's doing enough on this Malga to warrant needing that defense matrix to try and nullify as much of those shots as possible.
Yeah, and I really want to see how aggressively they use this Diva. Do they try to fly up to that high ground, or they just try to drag a fight to point? I think right now dragging a fight to point might be the best thing, especially with Harmony being the only one there. But I mean, you see Harmony just using the TP to TP themselves in and off of the point, but at the same time, they're just building up that beam because of Melophobia here. Now there's the dive onto the high ground here from Melophobia. Photon Barrier coming out, the Nano again thrown onto Zaku. That seems to be the primary target of throwing it onto. A nice trap there by Fish Tank to get Melophobia out of the mech. And I mean, Ray, about 30 seconds ago, I thought this was Arize's point and map to win. Now Nightmare Rotation, I think they're in control.
And they're going to have the cage fight for Dirt, and Arize has nothing to work with. You know, maybe you get this rocket barrage, but Nightmare will also be getting their orbital ray. It just feels like in the blink of an eye, the momentum has completely shifted back into Nightmare Rotation's favor. It's absolutely insane.
And if you're Arize, you really need to figure something out here. You need to find an early pick, but Nightmare Rotation, it seems like they figured it all out here now. They are playing just so spread out, and normally that's not a good thing, but with this comp, especially with the sim, you can immediately get everyone back to a safe spot on the opposite side of the map. This is final fight, but the Barrage gonna come out here, get rid of Chosen, who was so close to a Nano, but now you see the Orbital Ray come out from Bandit. Now there's the cage from Dirt trying to get rid of Melophobia's tank. They're gonna be able to do that. No bomb for them this time around. There's no touch from Arize either.
Very impressive from Nightmare Rotation, man. These are just compositions you just do not see every day. I'm not sure if this is more of a, I'm not saying Melophobia played bad or anything, but they're probably used to having their tank in and Melophobia playing DPS. I'm not sure if it was more of that, or if it was more of, wow, they got really caught off guard by those comps, and it's going to take another map or so for them to adjust and try and deal with that. Hopefully their tank comes in so Melophobia can go back to DPS, and then we'll really see how things go in map number 2. But, I mean, that's a great start for Nightmare Rotation, considering once I saw them roll out on that Roadhog comp, I wasn't giving them much chance of winning, and they proved me wrong.
And honestly, I'm not going to say anything bad about Melophobia's tank. I thought they actually played a very commendable tank that round there, especially for it being their off roll. They were able to really force Dirt to get off the Roadhog, which seemed to be the tank they want to just run with here throughout this entire thing. We came into this series, you know, maybe thinking they were joking with us, but no, Dirt kind of proved us wrong that they are going to run this Roadhog when they can. The Malga seems to be the last ditch effort, but you talked about there. The composition for for Nightmare Rotation is one you just don't see. It's a little bit all over the place. And especially being this late in a season, you don't normally expect to see something like that. I really do think it just caught Arize off guard, and they were trying to figure out what to do because they had a Pharah. Zach was dominating the field at times, but it just seemed like they couldn't even get close those last couple engagements.
Yeah, and especially on a map like Village for that last one, once you're able to get set up in that composition, the sim is very strong. You can just have those turrets all over the point. As you saw, they were using the TP very smartly to just go in and out inside the contest point. So you're in a position, it took a minute, it took about 40% or so for them to get the point and get set up. But once that did, they didn't look back because that composition is strong once you're in that position. But it's basically playing like a, man, we're going to be unbeatable if we can just win a fight and take the point. And it just took a while they got there.
Yeah. But we do have that sub that we talked about before map 1 coming in here now for Arize. Melophobia gonna be moving over to the DPS line here. Zach is stepping out after honestly an incredible first map for them here, but you do see Jags coming in now on the tank here. So Arize back at full strength, and especially heading into map 2 here, their map pick and everything, you have to imagine that they are looking to bounce back and bounce back quick because like we kind of said, Ray, they were in control for the majority of that map. It just kind of got away from there at the end.
As we see on your screen, map 2 has been chosen. Hollywood will be the scene for map 2, which, as we all know, is a very dive-centric map. And I think especially with Melophobia's tracer abilities, Amadian being able to have lots of high ground power on that Ashe, and then Jag's very talented Winston player, I think this is a very well-decided map for Arize to try and tie up the series.
Oh, absolutely. Especially, I mean, if Nightmare, based off what we saw from at least Dirt, it's going to be really interesting to see what they want to run into this map with. Actually, no, Nightmare Rotation also making a sub here late before we head in. Matt Merck coming in here for Dirt. I mean, Reinhardt is the picture they have here, but considering this is probably a swap that came in after map selection, you have to imagine that they have maybe a little bit more dive experience than Dirt, or a little bit more comfortable on those dive tanks.
So I'm not saying Matt Merck doesn't play other tanks, but definitely well known for the Reinhardt. So I don't know if that's what we're going to see. That's just what, like, when I think Matt Merck, that's the first hero I think of. So but definitely has the capability to play other tanks like the Winston, for example. So we'll have to see if that's what they're going to do here. But the one thing I'm interested to see is if we're going to continue to see the sim or not, especially coming into a map like Hollywood, where you're more than likely going to see Winston. Winston is just a hard counter to sim, especially when, you know, Winston could just get on top, get those those turrets down fast, and then you have a bubble to give you protection enough time, and the sim will melt pretty quickly.
Well, as a sim main, I would like to say that is a little bit blown out of proportion. Yeah, you can get rid of the turrets incredibly fast, but if that bubble goes down, sim is going to have a level 3 beam with 100% ammo the entire time you're in that engagement. So it's a little bit of a double-edged sword if you're just trying to go in there and die for the turrets. I think especially this first point on Hollywood, it is the best sim point on defense. Offense, you struggle a lot, but first point defense here, sim can find a lot of value, not only with turrets, but just being able to just be in good spots to even get that right click, those orbs out there and find a lot of damage here. But I mean, not necessarily a real surprise from Nightmare Rotation. Arize, though, I mean, we're seeing a Hanzo, we're seeing an Echo. I mean, Ryan's back on their trademarked Lucio.
Which is interesting because the Lucio Kiriko we don't see very often anymore. And the one composition, this is not a composition I expected to see it in, with an Echo and a Hanzo. I think it'd be more of like a rush brawl kind of thing with the Winston, or maybe like an Orisa or something. But to see it in this situation, I'm interested for sure.
I mean, both these teams definitely did tell us they like to play their compositions their own way here, and so far this is just that. These are definitely their own comps. Melophobia, though, going to be able to get rid of Chosen, who unfortunately was always one of the first ones to die last map. Going to be continuing that here early on. Harmony, though, immediately get traded out there, but you do see Jags diving into that backline of Madian, almost getting taken out there, but the Suzu going to be invested to keep themselves up, but Bolton Cake not going to be able to say the same, and Matt Merck going to be able to pick up 3, actually make it 2 as Bandit steals Jags away.
Great plays. I mean, them getting Melophobia down early in that fight was a big victory for them. As the Madian's now going to swap over the Ashe, which, you know, I thought it was going to be the Ashe from the beginning, but I can understand the Hanzo for this first point, wanting to try and open something up with a big pick, and then you can snowball. But the better sustained play is going to be the Ashe. Bob's a more powerful ultimate, and just the amount of damage you can throw down with that dynamite is crucial.
Yeah, now we're starting to see this Arize team kind of go back to what the characters that they are truly known for. Melo back onto the Tracer as well. I think we're seeing Arize here. They want to try to, you know, take it a little bit more seriously here. And, I mean, getting rid of that Immortality field early, not necessarily going to be a big thing, but you know that cooldown's gone, so you can play a little bit more aggressively here. TP out as well, but still Arize at the moment. Jags not going to be able to escape as Fish Tank able to get the direct hit with 1 mine, make it 2 grenades right there, already sending Arize back yet again.
Yeah, this Winston composition thrives very heavily on Jags and Melophobia being on the same page and being on the same targets, because Jags by himself does not do a whole lot of damage, so you need the combination of the two to wrap people up quickly. And I think that Immortality Field was well placed and basically forced Jags to make a quick exit because they got focused down.
Oh. And Fish Tank already getting rid of a Madian very early on in this engagement. And now you have to start questioning for a Madian specifically, will they even be able to build up to a Bob in time?
You definitely will. There's still a minute and a half left on the clock. Melophobia going to go down to a mine, however, and things are starting to look more and more rough for Arize as they cannot seem to find any kind of angle, and this Nightmare rotation composition is just seeming just the right time in the right situation.
It seems like Nightmare Rotation knows exactly where Arize wants to play. The beat, though, from Ryan Guy coming out early, going to be responded to with the Orbital Ray and the Photon Barrier, as you do see every ultimate for the supports coming out into play. Matt Merck going to be able to shut down a Madian again. No Bob this time around, but Jags, the Primal Rage, going to be able to find one of your kills being traded back and forth at the moment. Both teams down, I believe. Both their supports, especially with Bandit falling right there, you still do see Bolton Cake trying to keep Jags alive here, and that should really help him out, especially as most of Nightmare Rotation is not really back into the fight just yet. Amadian gonna be...
sorry. As Amadian does have the ability here, if they need to, last second they can throw the Bob in here. Obviously, you'd like to keep it, but with that Terror Surge coming in, you might... Oh, Amadian goes down.
Oh, and that Terror Surge, especially in that location right there, feels a little like bullying. Matt Merck, though, finishing off that fight with a punch. Yeah, let's call it bullying right there. The Javelin Spin not going to allow Jags get over the roof right there. There's going to be no touch coming out from Arize. And Ray, I mean, only 1 tick for them in this first round. Nightmare Rotation played that defensive round perfectly.
That was, I'm just gobsmacked at how well Rotation is playing. I mean, it's not every day you see a junk sim absolutely dominating like this. Like, the only other team I kind of think about when it comes to this is, you know, EU with like SR Peak Check, or, you know, one of those iterations of the teams that play junk all the time. It's like, that's the only team I've ever seen success with it. So to see Nightmare Rotation coming out and playing these comps with those DPS, it's just blowing my mind.
I mean, they talked about this kind of being their go-to comp, and we already said it. We didn't necessarily believe it, but I mean, at this point now, I'm a believer in this one here, and Nightmare Rotation is making it work and making it work well. And I think Arize is just really struggling into it, even though they might have every counter pick in the world for it. It doesn't seem like they necessarily know who to go on first, because it felt like Jags that last round wanted to try to get rid of the turrets, wanted to try to, you know, get rid of Harmony first, but that just allowed Fish Tank just to be finding so much. And Matt Merck was incredible that first round as well.
And now Arize is trying to make some adjustments. I like going to the Brig Juno. I like Jags going over to the Orisa and Meliphobia going to the Pharah because they don't have any hit scans. The Torb is a little interesting. I'm not sure where. It's not like they're playing any like high flanking characters like that. So the Torb is the only peculiar pick I see for Arize. Outside of that, I actually like what they're doing.
TP up to the high ground here for Nightmare Rotation, and again, Meliphobia should just be able to find a lot of value early on in this because just one, splash damage, and two, Nightmare Rotation really playing themselves into a tight window right there. Chosen will be knocked off that high ground, but again, you see the TP plays coming out here from Nightmare Rotation as they have just completely gone into that backline right there, and Jags gonna be the one that gets caught out. Harmony gonna be able to melt them down. Now they turn their sights onto Meliphobia, who just flies away to keep themselves up, but just the TP plays coming out from this sim right here is impressive to see.
And players are getting lower and lower on the side of Arize, and it might just be over for the side of Arize as Nightmare Rotation is just a few percentage points away from taking this point. The Wrecking Ball swap, and it does not matter. Nightmare Rotation takes map number 2 and goes up 2-0 in the series and puts themselves on match point.
And they're doing it their way with this comp that is so out there. But we talked about, and we've talked about at length, almost to death at this point. It is just completely random, and it's working for them. Arize just seeming to struggle into it here. And you're seeing why this Nightmare Rotation team might be, or probably is at the moment, the best team here in this PC Open tier.
It's almost like you're feeling so comfortable in your own skin and this wacky composition that you play. And again, it's not like you're so used to scrimming against this composition if you're Arize. It is probably like throwing them for a loop. Like, what do we do about the sim and junk? And then when we try to deal with the sim and junk, they have so much heals from this Ana and this Juno, and then Ana just anti-nades us every time we jump in. And then we have this Orisa who keeps hitting us with these javelins. It's a lot, and they just gotta figure this out, but they only have one more map to do it. We're gonna go to a quick break, folks. Nightmare Rotation up 2-0 on Arize. Do they make a clean sweep, or does Arize find the key to solving this composition? We'll find out after this.
Cash and the ticket is yours. Cash and the ticket is yours. Yo. Cash and the ticket is yours. Cash and the ticket is yours. Cash and the ticket is yours. Yo. Cash and the ticket is yours. Yours.
Water is the softest and most yielding substance, yet nothing is better than water for overcoming the hard and rigid, because nothing can compete with it. Lao Tzu.
Name straight, new wave. Name straight, new wave. Name straight, new wave. Name straight, new wave. Name straight, new wave.
I'm not crazy, Malin. I'm not crazy, Malin. I've just been in a very bad mood for 40 years. 40 years.
All right, welcome back, everyone, from that halftime break right there. Nightmare Rotation, one map win away from sweeping Arize out of the mid-season playoffs championship right here. I mean, Ray, we've been talking about it here. Just what Nightmare Rotation is running is so unorthodox that even if the other team picks just direct counters, it seems like they're still struggling into it.
Arize has not come up with an answer for it. We do have substitutions coming in, so we'll take a look at those to see if they're going to make a difference for Nightmare Rotation. Dirt is coming back into the playing field in replace of Matt and Merck, so maybe we see some more Roadhog, maybe we see some more Malga, but that's what he played last time around. We're gonna have to see, as our third map type is going to be Clash, as Arize has Zach coming in for Amadian, so it's unlikely we'll see hit scan. Both Meliphobia and Zach are more of those flex DPS roles, so they might be looking to go to a more double flex DPS setup.
Yeah, and especially with how good Zach did on that first map. Like I said, at points it seemed like Zach was just kind of controlling where Nightmare rotation was going to be playing, especially on that far where they just dominated at certain points, even against. And I mean, a lot of it came down to it. Nightmare rotation not running a hit scan to shut them down, but they eventually did start to lose it a little bit towards the end of Nepal. However, we do know what our third and potential final map of this series will be here, Ray. We're going to be heading to the Clash map of Hananoka.
I'm very excited to see what we're looking at for Hanaoka. I mean, Clash is still very new to so many of these teams. Excuse me. We still haven't even seen it that much in OWCS. It has been forced here in CGL. So, I mean, if you've been competing against CGL, you've definitely had at least practice on it playing your games. But I think the teams are still trying to figure out these maps and what's the ideal and most perfect way to be able to play in the best composition. So this has been like the funkiest map type we've seen where if there is like a 3-1 situation and not a 3-0, the map that's kind of been the difference so far has been Clash.
Yeah, and I mean, Clash has grown on me a little bit, just playing it a little bit more. It's still not grown on me in a competitive sense, but it's definitely a mode that, I mean, momentum can be something that gets stonewall instantly. You can see a team go from point A all the way to the other end of the map almost instantly here, but I think coming into Hananoka, and like you said, it's still very new to a lot of teams. A lot of teams just kind of run the meta comps. I feel like this kind of plays straight into Nightmare Rotation's hands with how wacky and wild their comps kind of are.
The question is that going to work on a map like Hanaoka? I do think with how open and how many flanking routes there are for a composition like this Roadhog that we see Dirt highlighting, I definitely think there is for sure potential. As we see for the side of Arize, their current suggestion or idea for trying to deal with the Roadhog once again is going to be the Arize, and it had mixed results. It did very well against it on Nepal, to where they actually forced Dirt off of the Roadhog and he had to play the Mauga. So I think that's their best chance here.
I think it is too, but I mean, with Nightmare Rotation, just kind of normally how they've been playing with this Symmetra, just going from both sides of the map, and now they have both sides of the point here. It's gonna be something very interesting to see, but Chosen on the Zenyatta is definitely an interesting pick here, and it's not something we've really seen from them all night.
As I'm curious to see how the Pharaoh will work, given that there's not a lot of open skies on this middle point, and there's not a lot of room to work with. So Zach's going to have to be very careful, and the positioning is going to be key.
And Dirt almost taken down here early on. They're starting to be pressured out here a little bit by Jags, and the support's trying to do what they can, but Melophobia going to be able to knock them out here. A great start for Arize, but Chosen going to be able to shut down Zach. Jags, though, doing what they can on this point against a lone Symmetra, and yeah, that's normally never a winning fight for the Sim, but Nightmare Rotation, their supports, yeah, they're going to be leaving the fight here pretty soon.
And that's exactly the start you needed for the side of Arize. I mean, you already got Dirt to swap off the Roadhog. It's just not going to work. The Orisa does a lot to it. And Melophobia's already farmed up a Pulse Bomb, just attacking Dirt constantly on that Roadhog. So now you're going to have to deal with that. And Chosen is extremely squishy to this Pharah and to this Tracer. So Chosen has to be very careful. Their backline is extremely vulnerable with the Juno Zen.
Yeah, but Melophobia, that Pulse Bomb came out very, very early on. Didn't find anything, but Zach does find Chosen. The Orbital Ray now coming out here from both sides, but again, Zach, I talked about them just being able to control the playing field, and yet again, they're doing just that as they look to find a third one in this fight with Bandit flying in the sky, but it's going to be Ryan Guy shutting them down, and Arize with a quick 2-0 lead here.
As they're now going to look to push to the third point. That was 2 ultimates they used, and the Orbital Ray is the important one. That's the one you probably wish you had for this push, given how long it takes to cap this point. But Ryan Guy going down is not good. Your sound barrier is off the board.
And I mean, look at what it does to Arize here. They're not necessarily going to engage onto the point. Instead, they're going to fall back a little bit. And this might just be a play where they wait for Ryan Guy to get back, but losing Melophobia, you might just give point A up here to Nightmare Rotation and try to fight it again on B.
That's exactly what you're going to have to do. You'll be back quick enough to contest B, but not to try and stop them from getting A. As the good thing is, because you fell back and regrouped, you get a chance to meet them at the second point before Harmony has time to really get set up on the point.
Yeah, you see Zach just trying to fire rockets in spots where they know that Nightmare Rotation is going to be. Riptire coming out here from Fish Tank, just kind of doing what they normally do with it, try to just play it around the map, but you see some ultimates coming out here from Arize. Actually, all 4 ultimates they had ready out on the field, only gonna be able to find 1 pick off of it. The Riptire gonna go calling here, but again, it's gonna be Arize already cleaning up this fight. Just have 2 stragglers of Nightmare Rotation left to clean up, and then point B should be back in their control yet again.
Yeah, that tire not only took a long time to get to something happening, but they didn't even get a kill out of it in the meantime. You lost your junk while that tire was going off, so really bad play coming out from Nightmare Rotation, and now Dirt's gonna go down as this point gets wrapped up, and it's 3-1 in favor of Arize. Now they're gonna push to the next point, and this time around, Dex, they're going to have this orbital ray, which is going to be key in getting a lot of the percentage on this point.
Yeah, but Nightmare Rotation is going to have one as well. The photon barrier is there. We're not far away from their own whole hog. So Nightmare Rotation does have stuff to try to counter out Bolting Kick's orbital ray here. Hell, it will probably be responding with one of their own. And with Arize really not having any other ultimates, it's going to be difficult for them to find anything here. But hey, they find Fish Tank out early. They lose Ryan Guy, though. There's all the ultimates coming out from Nightmare Rotation just to counter out the photon barrier. Pulse Bomb's going to find the stick, but Melophobia immediately falls after that. Zach picking up 1, but kills just being traded back and forth. And Nightmare Rotation at the end of the fight seem like they're going to be able to take point A yet again.
And Arize wasn't even able to get a single tick out of that point, so it's just back to spawn room as they're going to have to look to reset up on this next point. Problem is, you're going to have an opportunity possibly to get yourself set up if you're Harmony this time around. And Dirt can basically force all of the players of Arize off of this point with just this ultimate of the whole hog.
But Jags could also try to counter it out with the Terror Search as well. Probably wouldn't be the smartest thing, but it is definitely a play that they could try to do here. Zach, though, in the backline, just trying to get rid of whatever they can. I mean, they got rid of that teleporter, really forcing Nightmare Rotation to play from the opposite side of the point here. But it looks like Arize is just kind of waiting for Nightmare Rotation to make the first mistake here. The whole hog coming out there from Dirt, still just trying to get anyone off the map. Doesn't look like they're going to be able to do just that. But you're seeing kills be traded back and forth. But Dirt actually looking like they're going to be able to find Jags right before that whole hog ends. Dirt with 2 bandits shutting down Zach. And hey, Nightmare Rotation now evening up the map score here at 3 as we'll be heading back to C.
Yeah, Zach got absolutely nothing with that blade. That didn't help, but Arize was playing extremely split. I know you're playing Genji Tracer with the Arize, but you don't want to play that split. You need to be able to protect your supports because the Lucio Juno is also a very vulnerable and squishy support combo.
Terror Search coming out there, not going to be able to find everyone they wanted, but Chosen will fall as the beat comes out from Ryan Guy, and that is all signs go. Melophobia with 3 Jags, picking up 1 right there, but Melophobia started the fight. They'll end the fight as well as Arize looking like they're going to be able to put themselves onto map point.
Again, these clash maps can be extremely back and forth as we've been seeing, but Arize has done a great job of trying to keep it to just point A and point B. All they got to do is get 1 more, but Nightmare Rotation has a lot of stuff coming online as the tire now comes out.
And Fish Tank, they need to be able to find something with it this time around. Not going to be able to shut down Jags, but did do a decent amount of damage. However, Jags does find them. Kills being traded back and forth, though, but Dirt really starting to come alive here. Orbital Ray coming out. The Pulse Bomb, though, not going to be able to find the stick. And Nightmare Rotation, if they can pick up 1 more kill here, this might be point B back in their control. Melophobia, though, trying to do their magic in that backline. Ryan Guy there that try to keep them supported. Melophobia, though, still alive. Going to be able to find 1, but it seems like Nightmare Rotation should be able to cap point here, but you're seeing Arize slowly start to come back into this fight.
I think they're just going to look to give it up, back up. I think that's the smart thing. It's all going to come down to this final point in the middle, and you want to make sure your team is all grouped up and ready to go, especially when you have an orbital ray to work with for your team. You're going to need everyone coalesced on that. The good thing is, if Nightmare Rotation places correctly, this photon barrier should be able to limit a lot of the damage they can do with the orbital ray, as long as you place it right and in a good like time. They place it at the right time.
Yeah, and when Harmony used their orbital or their photon barrier last time, Bolton Cake used their orbital ray. It was perfectly. They kind of just rotated around the photon barrier as that orbital ray, you know, went through it. It really worked out. But Arize already 50% up to the cap here. Now you're starting to see everything come out for them. Getting rid of Harmony early means there's no. Actually, no, the photon barrier is out on field. Dirt using the whole hog here, but you're losing your DPS line here. Nightmare Rotation, you lost Chosen. What can these two members here do just to keep this fight alive? Bandit trying to do whatever they can to keep Dirt alive, and kicking Dirt has to hit that re-heal, but they're not going to be able to do it there. There might be one more touch that Nightmare can get here.
Yeah, it should be a last-second touch, but there's just not a lot for them to work. Dirk is now going to go over to the Mauga. Chosen might be able to get this Nano online if the fight goes on long enough. Bandit might get the Orbital Ray.
Oh, there's a huge anti there early. The Nano going out onto the Sim. This is scary. Their microwave beam is there. Ryan Guy, though, going to be able to get that beat out. Going to be able to get thrown onto everyone here. But you see the main target, and their name is Jags. Immediately taken out of the fight, and now Nightmare looking to cap up the point here. Orbital Ray coming out from Bandit. Fish Tank again using another tire. They have kind of been quiet this map, but they're going to be able to find anything. This time as Zach in the backline does find Harmony, but there needs to be a touch, and Zach gets there just in time. Now you're starting to see Arize come back, but Chosen finds two right there. Jags back on the Doomfish just trying to do what they can, but it's gonna be Dirt finding them there, and Nightmare Rotation gonna be sweeping their way to the mid-season playoff champions.
Extremely impressive. This composition from the side of Nightmare Rotation was unique. It was definitely a one-trick style. I mean, I wouldn't say it's completely one-trick because you're changing up your tank and your support sometimes, but the DPS combo of Junk Sim was absolutely consistent outside of just touches at the end. And I mean, they played really well. I mean, did they get a lot of use out of tire? No, but I mean, do you really ever get that much use out of tire above like Diamond? Not really. But the damage they got from Fish Cake was definitely there. And then, I mean, you saw there at the end when the Sim got the Nano, and they were able to survive long enough as well to allow Chosen to get that Nano and then give it to them. And then, like you mentioned, microwave beam go burr.
Might be my favorite thing there, but I mean, when that Nano came out onto the Sim, you immediately saw Ryan Guy had to respond with a beat of their own, because Arize would just not have survived through that long enough to have those teammates come back and then try to use it to get everyone there. But the target selection from Nightmare Rotation was perfect after that moment. They focus in on Jags, get rid of that Orisa. You open up a lot of possibilities there for your team, especially your DPS line, to start cleaning up the fight, and that's exactly what they did. But Chosen as well, I believe, finding two there towards the end of that fight as well.
Thinking about this matchup, I mean, who are you eyeing from the side of Nightmare Rotation as the MVP? It's kind of tough because like they're so unorthodox in their composition that it's kind of hard. Like, it's not like the Junk of the Sim was, it didn't feel like anyone was carrying super hard on that team. Like it just felt like they all just played within their own skin and moved together as a team with their unique one-trick style composition.
Yeah, like that's the hard thing. Like, I'm trying to think about it. Like, Fish Tank did pop off at points. Harmony provided a lot of utility. Both Dirt and Matt Merck were incredible on tank, but I'm looking at that support line here because I really do think it should go to one of them for really being the only ones that kind of, you know, changed around their heroes throughout the night. And I just really think for that late swap to Ana there, I think Chosen might be the one I want to give it to.
I think they had a lot of big plays on that. I mean, even when that fight was getting so contested and it could go either way, Chosen got a huge nade and ended up getting a 2K. I mean, I think the nade got one and then they finished off with another kill. So it was a big play that really swung the momentum of that final fight, and it was needed because who knows what happens if Arize gets some momentum and, you know, maybe, we figured out the answer to this composition, and then they feel good about themselves and maybe a reverse sweep happens, but they just slam the door in the face of that and don't even let that creep in.
Yeah, I mean, Arize did put up a hell of a fight there on Hananoka, but I think we saw the swaps there from Nightmare Rotation late, and it seemed like we saw them as well on Nepal. They know when it's time to give up, maybe the one tricks and go over to something that can provide a little bit more utility, and that's what worked out for them, both on Nepal and there on the final point of Hanoka. But I believe we're going to throw it here to a quick break, and we're going to see if we can try to get an interview with someone from Nightmare Rotation. So everyone, stick around for one quick moment. We will be right back. welcome back, everybody. We are pleased to be joined by Dirt and Bandit from your victors tonight of Nightmare Rotation. Guys, congratulations on winning the mid-season playoffs. But, I mean, it was an incredibly fun series to watch here tonight. Your guys' unorthodox kind of style here when it comes to your compositions has to kind of be the highlight here. And we were calling it a little bit of one trickiness. Is that what it kind of is, or is it just more what you guys have a lot of fun on?
It definitely came from a one-trick kind of standpoint.
Yeah. I mean, I'm the one that figured it out, first of all. I'm the one that logged Roadhog and ran it down. You know, I did all the stuff, hooking and carrying, and that's basically it. See, Bandit was there to heal me, and he's just there, you know? God, I'm so handsome.
Yeah, the team at its core is pretty much a one-trick team. We have a lot of one-trick players on it. As you've seen, Roadhog, Symmetra, Junkrat, Illari. We also have a Bastion player who couldn't make it today, but
yeah, whatever. I don't need that Bablo. It's all about me after all.
Dirt is our hero.
That is awesome. That is awesome. So it definitely seemed like you guys wanted and preferred to play the Roadhog. What was Arize doing that made you just like, okay, look, we got to drop the Roadhog. We got to go to something else. And then what made you guys go to Mauga?
Oh
Dirt,
boy.
take it away.
I don't know. I just kind of felt evil that time, so I just swapped the Mauga. That's it. That's it. I just usually play Mauga. I made like an evil Dirt account like in season 2, and I just ran it down on Mauga because it was just Mauga meta, and I could play Mauga now, so that's my second best character.
Sometimes if we have trouble with tempo, we go Mauga so that we can really just brute force our way through.
Gotcha. And then when it came to this series, we know you guys, like you said, you guys, thought this. I mean, this came from the idea of a one trick, but you guys obviously make some adaptations, whether you change up your supports a little bit or you change up your tank a little bit. The DPS were always consistent, but did you guys expect to come in here against a team like Arize in 3-0 like that? That was impressive.
We expected to do good. I don't think any of us thought we were going to lose. As soon as the thought of losing crosses our mind, it's kind of like a downhill slope, so we always just think we're gonna win. But
we always have that like winner mentality no matter what. Just kind of lock. I mean, we already locked Roadhog. How are we gonna lose? It's just that easy.
You have to be a little bit crazy.
Side tangent. With this composition, obviously you guys are very good at it and very talented, but do you guys feel like it throws teams for a loop?
Oh yes, very much so.
Yeah, by mile.
We were playing in the Face It tournament, and we were playing against TSM, and we nearly beat TSM on our composition. So it definitely catches some people off guard when it really shouldn't.
It's pretty goofy. I don't know how it works, but it just works. Like, we made it to OWCS Stage 2, which is Hog Bastion. Oh my god, it was a blast. Yeah, sure, B-Main died infinite timeless, but oh my god, me on the camera? Good.
You guys like SRP check at this point. Like, they just play wacky stuff just like you guys. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, but you guys are now mid-season playoffs champions here. Do you guys think that puts a little bit of a target on you here for the second half of the season, especially heading into the final playoffs of the season?
I'm sure it does. I'm sure a lot of teams want to beat us for sure. A lot of teams kind of underestimate us, thinking, oh, they play weird stuff, so we don't have to worry about practicing for it. But that's kind of where it really throws them off. Since they don't practice against it, they kind of don't know what to do against it. And so I think going into the regular season, we have a pretty good chance. We do have a pretty big target, but I don't think it'll be too much to worry about.
We just need to make sure the meta is like not the worst thing for Roadhog.
That is true. We have to hope that Roadhog gets buffed.
I mean, with the way the devs go, I wouldn't be surprised if Roadhog gets buffed again.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Frank.
All right, before we let you guys go for the night, we will give both you the floor here to shout out anyone or anything you would like.
First.
I don't know, me. I'm W. Yep, that's it. What about you? Is that how it works? Yeah, what about you, Bandon?
Yeah, I mean, hey, you could shout out yourself. I get that.
I guess I'll shout out my players and management.
Ew.
L2's on Nightmare. And then I know my mom and dad are watching. So shout out to them, I guess.
Yeah, whatever, Bandon.
All right. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your night to do this interview. We'll let you now go back in and celebrate with your team again. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that was Dirt and Bandit from Nightmare Rotation. And Ray, I mean, coming into this series here, we did not really expect to see this score line, but I mean, they seem like a very confident team. They play their way, and a lot of teams seem to struggle trying to shut it down.
Yeah, I think it's a lot about what they say. Teams look at it and be like, look, they're the only team who does this. We do not need to practice for something. Then, oh gosh, we're facing them in grand finals. We haven't practiced against this. And then like it throws teams off. I mean, there are plenty. It's kind of like when London Spitfire upset as many teams as they did in the last season of the Owl playoffs. You're just not, it almost makes you have to force onto the same comp that London was playing, and then they're just better at it than you. So most just weren't used to it, and you can upset a lot of teams that way. And I think that's what happened. I mean, it's not that like they're a bad team. Nightmare Rotation is great. Their players played well, but it's a lot to do with teams. I'm sure if you took Arize, right, and you go, Arize, you were going to face this team in grand finals, so you better be ready to face them. I'm sure they would come up with a better game plan, and this would be a lot closer series.
Yeah, but I believe it will probably be as well. And remember how close Arize was actually taking that first map, especially with Melophobia, who we highlight as probably one of the best DPS players in CGL, having to play tank. I mean, to be fair, in some points, I think that was the best that Arize looked in this entire series when Melophobia was rocking the tank. But, I mean, they still look good outside of that. Just Nightmare Rotation, like we said, like, just plays as such a unique way that no one really can truly practice for it. But like you said, if you tell Arize right now they're gonna be playing Nightmare Rotation in the grand finals at the end of the season, they are gonna figure something out because they have the players definitely to do that.
Couldn't agree with you more. And with that, that is pretty much going to wrap up everything for this presentation of the NAPC Grand Finals. Nightmare Rotation takes the dub over Arize 3-0. I'd like to thank Mr. Head Rammer and everyone working behind the scenes. I believe it was sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. It was Rhino and Little Joe working behind the scenes on the observing, and they did absolutely fantastic, giving us all the great scenes and overviews of the match. And then I'd like to thank all of you for turning into this presentation. Make sure to follow and get the notification. So we got one match going on right now on CGL 1. That was a close matchup for the CGL 2, I think. Sorry, my bad. CGL 2 for the NAGM Grand Finals. That one's a great match. So make sure to go tune into that. And with that, we will go ahead and see you guys at the next broadcast.